It's undeniable that volleyball has become more popular nowadays. Unlike before, volleyball games crowd is just as much as basketball has. So volleyball being the topic of our show today, I have interviewed someone who's been a coach for 20 years now.
So I am Coach John Mendoza. I have been involved in coaching high school volleyball since 1994. So this would be my 20th year of being involved in coaching. So I have been a coach for different schools, but the longest was with St. James College of Paranaque. So I coached both high school boys and high school girls teams, and we have competed in many different tournaments, both within Paranaque and even on regional and a national level. Highlights of my coaching career: there are many highlights of my career in volleyball. Um, Notably, my stay with St. James College of Paranaque. Um, we collected around 15 championships in the different leagues that we participated in, and we were the most dominant high school volleyball team in Paranaque for quite some time, um, up until uh, up until the school closed down in 2012. Um, so among the different championships that we have won for St. James, probably the most memorable would be our championship in 2010. I'd consider that a highlight because um, I think it was the very first time that it happened to any high school varsity team. So during the championship of one of our tournaments, I was away. I was in Subic, and our team was competing in the private schools finals for Paranaque. And during that game, I coached using Skype, so I was just viewing the entire game via Skype. And fortunately, we won that championship, even though I wasn't physically on the bench. So that's probably one of the um, highlights of my career. And another one would probably be winning a particular championship in 2009, just a day after the father of my setter passed away. So it was a very difficult time for my player and for the entire team as well. But despite the despite uh, that unfortunate incident, we were able to win the championship the following day. Benefits of coaching. For me, there are a lot of benefits of coaching. Well, number one is that you have the ability to improve other people, not just as players but as persons in general. So that's probably one of the strategies I employ in my coaching style. So I'm not only a coach on court, but I am a mentor off court. So if it has to mean that I have to meddle to a certain point in the personal lives of my players, I would. Because again, for me, what's more important is to develop them not just as players but as persons. Another benefit of coaching is that you are able to pay it forward, so to speak. You're able to give other people the opportunities that you yourself were given when you were starting out as a player. So that for me is a very positive benefit of coaching. And third is that coaching also develops you as a person, and it makes you continuously try to improve yourself. Um, you never stop upgrading, you never stop learning new techniques, you never stop trying to get more information so that you can pass this on to your players. What are the advantages of having a sports program? Well, for a school, number one advantage of a of a sports program is, again, it develops the potential of your students. You are giving them a chance to make themselves be very good at something, and that develops confidence, that develops character as well. Another advantage of a sports program for a school is that um, it is a very good marketing tool for your school to be known in different areas. Um, in our case before, before we initially when we started joining the major tournaments, other schools would wonder where our school was, and they were surprised that we were there, we were joining, and yet they didn't know, or they haven't heard of our school even before that. So, but when we started, playing at a competitive level, when we started to win, um, it was very good for the school because the school became known. The school became more popular, not just in the area, but in the greater Manila area. So um, we were known to be a power when it comes to high school volleyball. So that's another advantage of having a sports program. Third, if a school has a sports program and you're able to develop winners and you're able to produce teams which win, it becomes a source of school pride. And it's one fact that rallies the entire community together. And once you've united the school, then you've already realized the value of having a sports program. How does sports contribute to society? Well, obviously, sports in general has a very empowering effect on society. Take for example, if we have a team like Gilas Pilipinas, which becomes again a rallying point for Filipinos to come together, then that in itself is already a good effect on society because it brings all of us together. Whenever we watch um, Manny Pacquiao fight, the whole country literally stops and drops what they're doing just to view that game or that match. So it brings all of us together. Whenever the Ascals battle against the other football powers, it also becomes a sense of pride for all of us. So, in terms of uniting the people, that is achieved by sports. So we also become more prominent in the international sporting scene. So they recognize that Filipino athletes are very good and are very competitive. So that is also a boost for our country's image all over the world. Well, yes, over the years we've seen volleyball rise to prominence in the Philippine sporting scene. Whereas before you would see venues, big venues like the Araneta Coliseum, and more recently the MOA Arena. They're only full packed during basketball games. Nowadays, you can see that volleyball can pack these venues by its sheer popularity. So, what has contributed to the rise? Number one, media has played a very big role in popularizing the sport because suddenly, not just volleyball fans, but sports fans in general are more familiar with how the game is played, with the rules and the excitement that it brings. People are now more familiar with the players, the coaches, and I guess it's innate with the Filipinos to root for teams which display a lot of charisma and a lot of talent and a lot of skill. And that's what volleyball brings to the table. It offers an exciting game. It offers, a a wide array of personalities that ordinary sports fans can relate to. It offers role models for young athletes, and that's probably why it has become as popular as it is now. Well, for aspiring volleyball players, what should they do to become successful? Number one, they have to have the passion. It goes without saying that you can't really excel at something if you're not passionate about it. Second, the discipline should be there. Discipline covers everything uh, from what you do inside the court and what you do outside the court, from what you do in a game and what you do before a game. Uh, so, with the discipline comes the correct preparation, the correct training, the correct attitude. And third, in order for any volleyball player to be successful, you cannot stop playing at the level that you think you're comfortable with. You always have to make sure that you learn something new, that you master what you learn, and the only way for you to be successful is to make sure that you listen to your coaches because they know what's best for you. They can see what needs to be improved in your game. They can see the potential that you probably haven't seen in yourself. So there, listen to your coaches. For aspiring coaches to be successful, number one, you have to look at coaching not as a source of income. That's probably um, one of the keys to why I'm still around in terms of coaching. I've never looked at it as something that pays. Okay, actually, when I started coaching 20 years ago, um, I did it because I wanted to. It was because it was a passion of mine. So I never charged for coaching. For several years even after I started. Because if you begin to look at coaching as just a source of income, you won't invest as much emotion, you won't invest as much time and as much effort as you would if you considered it a job. Second, you as a coach you need to be uh, flexible with your players. To you need to know when you should be strict and when you should uh, be more lenient. There's always a fine balance um, between being someone who is unreasonably strict and being someone who is just a disciplinarian. So you have to know that balance. Another key for a coach to be successful in coaching, you have to continuously learn new things and you have to know how to apply them because you may learn new stuff and you may think that it will work for your team, but ultimately you have to know how to analyze your team. If this strategy works for your team, or your team needs another strategy, you have to be able to recognize that. It's not enough that you just apply it across the board. You have to know when it's applicable and when it's not. And finally, a coach will be successful if he treats his teams and his players as family. If he looks at each and every player under his guidance as a family member. And with our system before, we'd always involve also the parents. We'd involve the parents, the siblings. That's why we've become a real family. It was a collective effort. So even if we were, as coaches, we were the ones disciplining the players on court, there was an extension when it came to the home because we already had the support of their family. So their families would always look out also for the interests of the players. So for me, that's one way to become an effective coach. things that I'm very proud of when it comes to coaching, number one is the products. I've had the I've had the pleasure of producing players who went on to play for different universities. Um, John DePante, who became team captain of UST, um, was one of my players in high school. Nico Fajardo, who also became the captain of College of St. Benilde, um, was also a product of our sports program. We have continuously uh, sent players to um, other schools like San Beda Alabang. Um, we've had players play for UE. We've had players who played for other big colleges and universities, and they were all graduates of our sports program. So that's one thing that I'm very proud of. And aside from that, all these players and all the family members of these players um, still keep in touch. Would always be around. Would always be together, especially when it comes to important occasions. Would always celebrate together. Would always take time out to gather and check out what's happening with each other. So we've always remained intact. We've always remained a family, and that's something that any coach should be proud of. Third, coaching has allowed me to uh, widen my perspective because when you deal with players of different backgrounds and of different attitudes, you get to learn how to deal with them, and you get to know a lot about yourself in the process, that you have the ability to deal with different kinds of personalities, and that you are able to guide them and help them out, even if they have already graduated and they've already moved on to other things. So that is also a source of pride for me as a coach.